Can you tell us a bit about the
clock?
clock? Yeah.
It was made by Gillett & Co in Croydon, who were prolific makers of turret clocks and casters of bells as well. They were bell founders. It's got the date 1921 on it, which is when it arrived here, but it was second hand then, because that style of bed, they stopped using these castings in about 1909. So the fact that it says Gillett & Co also dates it to pre-20th century. So I've got it down as between 1880 and 1890, so it was about 30 years old when it arrived here. My guess is that as this was a war memorial, this probably came from a church where they decided to upgrade from hour striking to quarter chiming, and Gillett's installed a new 3-train clock there, took this one out, refurbished it and brought it here. So it's in 2 sections. On the right is what we call the going train, which does what it says on the tin. It goes, that's what moves the hands around and also releases the hour strike. On the left hand side is the striking train, which is most of what I'm going to be working on today, and that strikes the hours. And if you see this wheel on the front, this is the count wheel, and you can see the projections on it. The slots are at different distances apart. So this is what governs how long the train runs each time and how many strokes of the bell it gives. So that's 2 o'clock, that's 3, 4, 5, all the way around to 12. There's no piece of metal in there for 1 because it's not necessary to hold it up. It just moves through the slot. So that's the count wheel. The tick at the back is coming from what's known as Denison's double 3-leg gravity escapement, and that was specially developed for turret clocks to protect the timekeeping of the clock from wind and rain on the hands. So it detaches the clock sends power to the hands, but the pendulum is impulsed every time by these gravity arms, which the clock lifts, and then they drop under gravity and give a small impulse to the pendulum that keeps it swinging, but without any interference from the weather outside. The double 3-legged gravity escapement was invented by Edmund Becket Denison in about 1860 for Big Ben, and it's been ticking away. Big Ben had a couple of experimental escapements when it was in the workshop and when it was first installed in the tower, and then they settled on this as the most reliable, and he never patented it. He freely distributed the drawings in the belief that it would trigger a revolution in public timekeeping, and it did, because before then, if a public clock kept time to within 2 minutes a week, it was considered very good indeed. This brought it down to seconds a week, or fractions of a second in some cases.
Wow, fantastic. And what would have been here before?
Nothing, as far as I know.
There wouldn't have been a clock.
Well, I don't think there was a previous clock.
Okay.
No.
And
church clocks were never very plentiful in South Wales, compared to more plentiful in North Wales, certainly in England, but not commonplace in South Wales. So I suspect there wasn't a clock here before.
And it's got a huge pendulum at the bottom, hasn't it?
Yeah, the pendulum beats 1 1/4 seconds, so it's around 5 feet long.
5 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's what they call a compensated pendulum, which is usually used with the gravity escapement. So it's suspended on an iron rod here, and then that goes down and it's got a flange on the bottom, and there's a zinc tube sitting on that, and then there's a brass collar here that sits on top of the zinc tube, and from that this iron tube hangs, and that's got holes in it down so that air can circulate through the tube, and then the bob hangs from that. And the reason is the expansion coefficient of iron is half of that of zinc, and the construction means that when the temperature changes, the zinc expands upwards and the two iron elements expand downwards, so the mean length of the pendulum remains the same. And the reason the holes are in the tube is to allow changes of temperature to affect the zinc sooner.
Wow.
And again, with a gravity escapement, you usually get a compensated pendulum.
And what sort of weight is the pendulum?
Difficult to say. It's not as heavy as some I've shifted. I would say it's at least 100 weight. It had to come out in pieces because you physically can't get it into the clock case. Originally it was slotted at the back before this case was here.
Yeah.
But to get it out, we took the clock out first and then dismantled the pendulum in there and passed it out through the stand at the bottom after we'd unbolted the auto winders.
Absolutely fantastic. How long have you been doing this for?
As a hobby all my life. Professionally, I'm in my 4th year and joined the Cumbria Clock Company. You need to hold the hammer back so that you can swing the bell.
And where's the bell? We missed that bit.
It's all upstairs.
Oh, up the top.
Pellets, spacers, I think they're called, that go on these wheels, and because they're in use all year, they fall out. And we've made more and put them in as well. I'm quite sure where they went to.
So these are the church bells.
These are the church bells.
And each one's got a rope at the
Yes.
top,
That's right.
which pulls it down through a pulley into where the clock is.
That's correct. Just down there, yes.